Only a tiny percentage of people will truly understand what you're about to hear. Because the moment you change the signals you send to your body, you begin changing the reality your body creates. And in the next few minutes, you may realize aging was never happening the way you were taught. If this message resonates with you, hit like right now to lock this energy into your mind. Subscribe to join the awakening, and in the comments type, "I choose vitality." Then tell me which country or region of the earth you're receiving this transmission from. There is a reason your attention was pulled here at this exact moment, and before your logical mind tries to dismiss that sentence as another dramatic internet. Understand something important. Human beings underestimate how programmable they really are. Most people think aging is a straight line, an unavoidable collapse written permanently into biology. But biology is not operating in isolation. Your body is listening every second. Your nervous system is listening. Your hormones are listening. Your immune system is listening. Your cells are constantly receiving instructions from your emotional state, your repetitive thoughts, your stress chemistry, your environment, your habits, your identity, and the unconscious signals you broadcast every single day without realizing it. The average person wakes up already exhausted, already tense, already preparing for decline before the day even begins. They check bad news, consume fear, repeat old emotional patterns, rehearse stress, relive memories that keep the nervous system trapped in survival mode. And then they wonder why their face changes, why their energy fades, why inflammation increases, why their body feels older every year. What they never realize is that the body obeys repetition more than intention. You can say you want vitality, but if your nervous system spends 12 hours a day rehearsing stress, guilt, fear, resentment, and hopelessness, your biology adapts to those signals. The body becomes a mirror of internal programming. And this is where the chosen ones separate themselves from the unconscious masses, not because they are magically superior, not because they possess secret alien DNA, not because they escaped human limitations. They separate because they finally understand that the body is not just flesh reacting randomly to time. The body is an intelligent system responding to information. Every emotion becomes chemistry. Every thought becomes instruction. Every repeated state becomes identity. And identity eventually becomes biology. That is why some people seem to age rapidly after years of emotional chaos, while others radiate unusual vitality despite their age. Stress accelerates decay. Meaning slows it. Purpose changes chemistry. Peace changes chemistry. Belief changes chemistry. Breath changes chemistry. Attention changes chemistry. This is not fantasy. Even modern neuroscience already confirms that the nervous system directly influences immune function, inflammation, hormonal balance, sleep quality, cellular repair, and long-term health outcomes. Yet most people continue living as if their inner state means nothing. They poison themselves with chronic emotional overload and expect the body to remain youthful. It does not work like that. Your body keeps score of everything you repeatedly feel. Every unresolved emotional loop becomes stored tension. Every suppressed fear becomes nervous system exhaustion. Every day lived in survival mode tells the body one thing: conserve energy, prepare for danger, reduce repair, increase stress chemistry, stay defensive, stay reactive, stay old. Because biologically speaking, survival mode and regeneration do not coexist efficiently. When the body believes it is under constant threat, it prioritizes short-term survival over long-term restoration. That means less repair, weaker recovery, lower vitality, disrupted sleep, higher inflammation, accelerated aging patterns, mental fog, emotional fatigue, and eventually physical breakdown. This is why the modern world produces people who feel spiritually drained before they even reach middle age. Their bodies are overloaded with signals of danger, notifications, comparison, financial fear, emotional suppression, endless stimulation, artificial urgency, digital addiction, shallow breathing, isolation, internal chaos, and then they wonder why they feel disconnected from life itself. But the chosen ones begin waking up when they realize something dangerous and liberating at the same time. The system profits from exhausted people. Exhausted people are easier to control. Distracted people are easier to manipulate. Spiritually disconnected people are easier to influence. People trapped in survival mode rarely access their highest intelligence because survival narrows perception.
Fear shrinks awareness. Chronic stress weakens intuition. And this is why reclaiming your energy becomes a revolutionary act. Because once your nervous system exits constant stress mode, your perception changes. Your thinking changes. Your body changes. Your reactions change. Your presence changes. Suddenly you begin noticing how much of reality was conditioning rather than truth.
You begin noticing how often people speak limitation over themselves without even realizing it. I'm getting old. I'm always tired. Everything gets worse with age. My best years are behind me. Repetition becomes prophecy. The subconscious mind accepts repetition as truth, whether it empowers you or destroys you. And the body follows the subconscious more than motivational words. That is why temporary motivation changes almost nothing. Identity changes everything. The moment someone internally identifies as broken, exhausted, unlucky, weak, or doomed to decline, the nervous system begins organizing reality around that identity. But when someone truly shifts identity, not just intellectually but emotionally and neurologically, biology starts receiving different instructions. This is where the 19 seconds matter. Because transformation rarely begins with massive dramatic events. It begins with interruption, a small interruption, a pattern break, a moment where consciousness interrupts unconscious programming. 19 seconds of intentional emotional regulation can begin changing the nervous system state. 19 seconds of elevated emotion can alter breath patterns, muscular tension, focus, and internal chemistry. 19 seconds of true presence can interrupt spiraling stress loops that have been running automatically for years. Most people never experience real stillness anymore. Their minds are overcrowded with noise. Their bodies are overstimulated. Their attention is fragmented into thousands of pieces. They cannot even sit quietly without reaching for distraction because silence forces them to confront themselves. But the chosen ones eventually discover that silence is not emptiness. Silence is signal clarity. In silence, you begin hearing the deeper patterns running your life. You notice how often fear controls your decisions. You notice how often your body remains tense for no reason. You notice how shallow your breathing has become. You notice how addicted you became to emotional chaos. And this awareness is uncomfortable because awareness destroys illusion. But awareness is also the doorway to transformation because you cannot reprogram what you refuse to observe. First stage of reversing aging is not external. It is neurological, emotional, energetic. It begins when you stop unconsciously feeding the chemistry of decline. Think about this carefully. Every time you relive anger, your body reacts chemically. Every time you rehearse fear, your nervous system reacts chemically. Every time you obsess over worst-case scenarios, your body responds as if the threat is happening now. The body does not always distinguish clearly between imagined danger and real danger. That means many people are biologically aging from imagined stress as much as actual stress. Their minds are generating emergency signals all day long. And over time, the body adapts to this emotional environment as normal. This is why emotional mastery matters far more than most people understand. Emotional mastery is not pretending to be positive while secretly collapsing inside. That fake positivity fools nobody, especially not your nervous system. Real emotional regulation means learning how to stop feeding destructive internal states unconsciously. It means learning how to breathe differently when stress rises instead of automatically spiraling. It means learning how to interrupt catastrophic thinking before it becomes biological instruction. It means reclaiming authority over your attention, because attention directs energy and repeated energy shapes identity. The reason most people never transform is because they try to change outcomes without changing internal patterns. They want vitality while maintaining the same stress addiction, same victim identity, same emotional chaos, same self-talk, same habits, same unresolved resentment, same shallow breathing, same digital overstimulation, same nervous system dysregulation. That is not transformation. That is wishful thinking. The body does not respond to wishes. It responds to consistent signals, and once you understand that, your entire life begins changing.
Suddenly your morning routine matters, your emotional environment matters, your sleep matters, your breath matters, your self-talk matters, your relationships matter, your focus matters, your nervous system state matters, because all of it becomes instruction. This is why ancient practices centered so heavily around breath, stillness, visualization, fasting, movement, meditation, and intentional awareness long before modern science began catching up. The ancients understood something the modern world forgot. The human being is deeply programmable, not infinitely magical, not invincible, but programmable. Your perception influences your physiology. Your environment influences your hormones. Your emotional patterns influence inflammation. Your stress level influences aging markers. Even your facial expressions influence emotional chemistry through neurological feedback loops. The body is constantly adapting to the internal reality you repeat most often. So ask yourself honestly, what reality have you been rehearsing? Exhaustion? Fear? Bitterness? Hopelessness? Constant urgency?
Because if that is your daily emotional atmosphere, your biology is adapting accordingly. But the moment you consciously interrupt that pattern, something begins shifting. And at first the shift feels subtle, almost too small to matter. That is why most people quit. They expect instant transformation, instant healing, instant youth, instant enlightenment. That expectation itself is part of the problem because it keeps people addicted to external stimulation instead of disciplined internal change. Real transformation is quieter than social media fantasies. It happens through repetition, through nervous system retraining, through consistent emotional regulation, through restoring alignment between mind and body, through reducing internal chaos, through becoming present enough to stop leaking energy into unnecessary stress. This is why some people suddenly appear younger after major emotional breakthroughs. Their biology is no longer carrying the same emotional weight. Chronic emotional burden visibly affects the body. You can see it in the eyes, posture, skin, movement, voice, and energy of a person. Stress leaves signatures, trauma leaves signatures, hopelessness leaves signatures. But peace leaves signatures too. Purpose leaves signatures too. Love leaves signatures too. Presence leaves signatures too. The body reflects the dominant state being rehearsed internally. And no, this does not mean you can think your way into immortality. That fantasy is delusion. Human beings remain biological creatures with limitations. But most people age faster than necessary because their internal environment constantly works against their own vitality. They are fighting themselves neurologically every day. They live in permanent overstimulation, emotional suppression, and psychological fragmentation. Their bodies never truly feel safe enough to deeply regenerate. So the chosen ones begin differently. They begin by slowing down enough to hear themselves again. They begin by reclaiming attention from endless distraction. They begin by regulating breath. They begin by reducing emotional toxicity. They begin by recognizing how addictive stress became. Because stress addiction is real. Many people feel uncomfortable without chaos because chaos became chemically familiar. Their nervous systems became conditioned to survival mode. Peace feels unfamiliar to them. Stillness feels threatening. Calm feels boring. So they unconsciously recreate drama to maintain familiar chemistry. And until that cycle is broken, true regeneration remains difficult because the body keeps receiving mixed signals. One moment relaxation. The next moment emotional warfare. One moment intention. The next moment unconscious self-destruction. This is why discipline matters more than hype. Small repeated actions reshape identity more than occasional emotional highs. One conscious breath repeated daily matters more than motivational speeches. One consistent sleep routine matters more than fantasy biohacking trends. One decision to stop feeding resentment matters more than pretending to be spiritually evolved online. Real transformation is less glamorous than people want, but it is more powerful than they realize. Because once the nervous system begins feeling safe again, the body reallocates energy differently. Sleep deepens, recovery improves, focus sharpens, emotional resilience increases, presence increases, energy stabilizes. And from that state, the body functions closer to its intended potential rather than remaining trapped in chronic defense mode. That is the beginning of biological authority. Not controlling every outcome, not becoming superhuman, but no longer unconsciously sabotaging your own vitality every day. And this is where the 19 seconds become symbolic, because the shift begins in moments. Tiny moments where awareness interrupts automatic programming. Tiny moments where you stop reacting unconsciously. Tiny moments where you breathe before spiraling. Tiny moments where you choose presence instead of panic. Tiny moments where you stop speaking weakness over yourself. Tiny moments where you reclaim authorship over your internal state. Those moments compound, they become identity. Identity becomes behavior. Behavior becomes biology. And biology becomes destiny.
Most people never realize how much power they leak through unconscious repetition. They wait for external salvation while their daily patterns silently shape their future. But the chosen ones stop waiting. They begin observing, adjusting, reclaiming, regulating, awakening, not through fantasy, through awareness, through discipline, through internal coherence, through learning that vitality is not merely physical, it is energetic, emotional, neurological, and spiritual all at once. And once that realization truly lands inside you, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of time alone. You begin understanding that while aging is natural, accelerated decline is often amplified by unconscious living. You begin realizing your body has been listening to every thought, every fear, every belief, every breath, every emotional state, every identity pattern all along.
And now, for the first time, maybe you are finally ready to send it different instructions. Most people think transformation begins when motivation appears, but motivation is unreliable because it depends on emotion, and emotions fluctuate constantly. The real shift begins when you understand that your body is recording every repeated experience, whether you consciously notice it or not. Every stressful reaction, every sleepless night, every suppressed emotion, every cycle of fear, every moment of self-hatred, every burst of hopelessness becomes part of the internal environment your biology adapts to. The body memorizes patterns. That is why two people can experience the same external world yet age completely differently. One person stays trapped in resistance, bitterness, anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and internal conflict for decades, while another learns how to regulate their inner world, release destructive emotional loops, and maintain a stronger connection between mind, body, and purpose. The difference eventually becomes visible not only in energy levels, but in posture, facial tension, eyes, focus, vitality, resilience, and even the atmosphere they carry into a room. Energy is not mystical in the way many people pretend online. Energy is attention, emotion, chemistry, electrical activity, hormonal response, nervous system state, and biological communication all interacting together. Your body is an electrical and chemical system responding to inputs every second. That means your environment matters more than most people admit. Constant negativity changes physiology. Constant overstimulation changes physiology. Endless comparison changes physiology. Emotional isolation changes physiology. Doom scrolling at midnight changes physiology. Chronic fear changes physiology. Yet modern society normalizes these behaviors while acting shocked that exhaustion, burnout, anxiety, and emotional numbness continue rising everywhere. Most people are not truly resting anymore. They are distracting themselves. There is a difference. Distraction numbs awareness temporarily. Restoration rebuilds the system. And the chosen ones eventually recognize that they cannot heal while remaining addicted to the same patterns that damaged them in the first place. This is where discipline becomes spiritual, not because discipline is magical, but because discipline restores integrity between intention and action. Every time you consciously choose a healthier internal state, you send a new signal to your nervous system. Every time you interrupt a destructive emotional loop instead of feeding it, you weaken old conditioning. Every time you breathe deeply during stress instead of collapsing into panic, you begin retraining your biology. Small moments repeated consistently become identity shifts. And identity shifts change behavior automatically over time. Most people try to force behavior change without identity change, which is why they keep relapsing into old habits. A person who internally identifies as exhausted will unconsciously recreate exhaustion. A person who identifies as powerless will unconsciously seek evidence confirming powerlessness. But once identity changes deeply enough, behavior begins aligning naturally because the subconscious always tries to remain consistent with self-image. This is why your inner dialogue matters so much. Every sentence repeated internally becomes instruction. I'm drained. I'm broken. Nothing ever changes. I'm getting old. The subconscious absorbs repetition without filtering truth from fiction. And eventually the body mirrors the dominant emotional atmosphere being rehearsed daily. That is why many people unknowingly become architects of their own decline. Not because they deserve suffering, but because unconscious programming shapes physiology more than temporary motivation ever will. The nervous system responds to consistency, and consistency exists whether the programming is positive or destructive.
Most people consistently rehearse stress, fear, anger, insecurity, comparison, and emotional overload. Then they expect peace to magically appear without changing the internal environment generating the chaos. It does not work that way. You cannot build vitality on top of chronic nervous system warfare. The body needs signals of safety to deeply restore itself. This is why emotional regulation is not weakness, it is intelligence. Learning how to calm your nervous system is one of the most biologically powerful skills you can develop because survival mode consumes enormous amounts of energy. When the body believes danger is constant, resources get diverted toward protection instead of regeneration. Sleep quality suffers. Hormonal balance suffers. Recovery suffers. Focus suffers. Immune function suffers. Even digestion suffers because the body prioritizes survival over repair. And many people live this way for years without realizing their baseline state has become chemically addicted to stress. Chaos becomes normal. Hypervigilance becomes normal. Emotional exhaustion becomes normal. But normal does not mean healthy. And eventually the chosen ones reach a breaking point where they realize they can no longer keep feeding the same destructive cycles while expecting different results.
That moment matters because awareness creates separation between you and the pattern controlling you. Before awareness, the pattern feels like identity. After awareness, you realize the pattern is conditioning, and conditioning can be changed through repetition, discipline, and conscious interruption. This is where the concept of the 19-second shift becomes powerful again, because transformation begins in brief windows where consciousness interrupts automatic behavior. A few seconds of intentional breathing can stop a stress spiral before it escalates. A few seconds of awareness can prevent emotional reactions from hijacking the nervous system. A few seconds of presence can reconnect you to the body instead of the mental noise consuming you. Most people underestimate small moments because modern culture worships dramatic transformation. But biology changes through accumulated signals, not theatrical breakthroughs. Every repeated emotional state becomes training. Every repeated thought becomes conditioning. Every repeated reaction strengthens neural pathways. This means your daily patterns are either accelerating your decline or strengthening your vitality. There is no neutral state. Your body is always adapting to something. That is why unconscious living becomes dangerous over time. If you never pause long enough to examine your patterns, those patterns quietly shape your future. And many people avoid silence precisely because silence exposes the truth. In silence, you notice how restless your mind became. You notice how exhausted your nervous system feels. You notice how much emotional tension your body is carrying. You notice how addicted you became to stimulation because stillness feels uncomfortable. But discomfort is not always a sign to escape. Sometimes discomfort is evidence that awareness is finally breaking through layers of conditioning. The chosen ones understand this. They stop running from themselves. They stop numbing every uncomfortable feeling instantly. They begin observing without immediate reaction. They begin reclaiming attention from endless distraction. And slowly their internal state changes. Their breathing slows. Their mind clears. Their sleep improves. Their reactions become less impulsive. Their energy stabilizes. They become less emotionally manipulated by external chaos because they are no longer internally chaotic all the time. This is what people misunderstand about higher consciousness. It is not about pretending to transcend reality. It is about becoming less controlled by unconscious patterns. A conscious person still experiences stress, pain, uncertainty, and difficulty. The difference is they stop automatically surrendering their nervous system to every external trigger. They create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, power returns. That power affects the body more than most people realize because chronic emotional instability ages people rapidly. You can see it everywhere now. People are overstimulated, emotionally fragmented, disconnected from purpose, disconnected from nature, disconnected from silence, disconnected from their own bodies. Their attention spans collapse, their sleep deteriorates, their anxiety increases, their nervous systems remain overloaded. Then they search for miracle solutions while refusing to examine the lifestyle creating the damage. But no supplement, trend, or motivational speech can override constant self-destruction. The body listens to lifestyle more than fantasy. And lifestyle is not only what you eat or how you exercise. Lifestyle includes what you repeatedly think, feel, consume, focus on, tolerate, and rehearse emotionally every day. Your emotional diet matters as much as your physical diet. Constant outrage poisons the nervous system. Constant fear poisons the nervous system. Constant comparison poisons the nervous system. The body absorbs everything repeatedly experienced.
That is why protecting your mental environment matters, not in a fragile avoid everything way, but in an intelligent way. You must become aware of what consistently drains your energy, dysregulates your emotions, and reinforces weakness inside your mind. Because if you do not consciously choose your inputs, the world will choose them for you. And most of those inputs are designed to keep you distracted, reactive, insecure, addicted, and emotionally exhausted. The chosen ones eventually reject that cycle. They begin reclaiming ownership over their attention because attention is life force. Wherever attention repeatedly goes, energy follows. And wherever energy flows consistently, reality begins organizing itself around those patterns. This is why gratitude changes people. Not because gratitude is magical, but because it shifts perception, emotional chemistry, nervous system state, and cognitive focus simultaneously. The same applies to purpose, hope, connection, and meaning. Human beings deteriorate faster when they lose meaning. A person with no purpose often collapses emotionally, even if external conditions appear comfortable. But a person connected to purpose can endure enormous difficulty while maintaining inner strength because meaning changes biology. It changes resilience. It changes hormonal responses. It changes perception of stress itself. This is why some people seem biologically younger than their age.
Their energy system is not carrying the same emotional burden. Their nervous system is not drowning in constant internal warfare. Their lives contain alignment instead of endless contradiction. They breathe differently, think differently, move differently, react differently. And yes, genetics matter, environment matters, health conditions matter, reality is complex. But many people surrender far too early because they were conditioned to believe decline is automatic and unavoidable. The truth is more nuanced. Aging is natural, but accelerated deterioration is heavily influenced by internal and external conditions. And once you realize that, your responsibility increases because now you can no longer pretend your daily patterns are meaningless. Every day you are either reinforcing survival mode or reinforcing regeneration. Every day you are either feeding fear or feeding clarity. Every day you are either rehearsing weakness or strengthening resilience. Every day your body is listening. The question is, what instructions are you repeatedly sending it? Are you teaching your nervous system chaos or coherence, fear or presence, exhaustion or vitality, despair or purpose? Because eventually the body reflects whatever emotional atmosphere becomes most familiar. This is why the chosen ones guard their state carefully. Not perfectly, not obsessively, but intentionally. They understand that emotional discipline is biological power. They understand that consciousness affects chemistry. They understand that stress left unchecked becomes identity. And most importantly, they understand that transformation begins long before external results appear. The invisible shift always happens first. The nervous system calms first. The mind clears first. The emotional patterns change first. Then the physical reality slowly follows. That is why patience matters. The modern world destroyed patience by conditioning people for instant stimulation. But deep change requires repetition. Repetition rewires the brain. Repetition retrains the body. Repetition reshapes identity. The chosen ones commit long enough for the new pattern to become natural. And once it becomes natural, vitality no longer feels forced. Presence no longer feels forced. Peace no longer feels forced. They stop performing healing and begin embodying it. Their entire energy changes because their internal war begins ending. And maybe that is why you are guided here now. Maybe some part of you is tired of surviving instead of living. Maybe some part of you already senses that your body has been waiting for different instructions all along. Maybe this message reached you because your nervous system is exhausted from carrying emotional weight that was never meant to define you forever. Or maybe you simply know deep down that the person you have been becoming is not the final version of who you are capable of being. So now I want to ask you something important before this transmission ends. From which part of the world are you receiving this message right now? Which country, region, or corner of the earth are you watching from as this activation reaches you? Leave a comment below and declare your presence. Let this community see how far this signal is traveling across the planet. And while you type your location, also write these words: I choose vitality.